And so we are back making a PvP guide on the channel. Has been a while. I did want to play a bit more the season before I actually wanted to make a PvP guide. I felt I tried a lot of builds in arenas, in solo shuffle, but also in solo QRBG. And I did find a build, not really find. I guess I have seen online that also like made my own twist and so on to find the ideal build for Fury where I have the most fun, but also ideally results, which is something that I think everyone wants to have fun and results. But before we start, it is a PvP guide, and we're going to talk about multiple things, like for example stats. We are going to talk about the embellishments that you can go for. We're going to talk about the tier set and how important it is or not. We're going to talk about the build that you're going to run, but we have also a few points where you can and should change whenever you're facing different opponents. We have also then the rotation. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about twos, threes, solo shuffle as well, and a bit of solo QRBG. And then we are going to end with some macros you can go for and some tips and tricks. So hopefully we do have a short video, but also spicy enough to learn enough about Fury Warrior. Now, Fury Warrior, what is a Fury Warrior? I try to always give you an introduction to the spec, because again, I think a lot of people are like misconceiving a lot of things. I think Fury Warrior is a good spec for certain brackets, and then you have like solo shuffle where I feel like Fury Warrior is not supreme at all. Like it does show with the numbers as well. I did make a tier list with also some ladder information to give you some insights between what I'm telling you, what I'm also argumenting to, and also why I feel like some people are placing Fury Warrior way too high for my liking. So solo shuffle, I feel like it's not like ideal, and it does show with the stats, does show how it plays. It is not as fun as well. While in twos, you can have the time of your life, kinda, and in threes, you can have some good comps where you can, I would say, alleviate some problems that Fury Warrior has. But in solo RPGs, you can have a lot of fun, but I'm going to talk about it a bit further down the line. So, Fury Warrior, very aggressive, has a build that is revolving around doing damage all the time, which is a good thing. Your burst CDs are very like fast coming back, so you can actually like prepare a few burst rotations between your main burst, your mini bursts, and then you can have another main burst once you have like everything lined up again. I think in general Fury Warrior can be fun playing this build. I didn't like the previous one with Blood Bath and how you only spam Blood Bath in Rampage, which I didn't really find fun. This one is a bit more like flexible, a bit more dynamic, and I think it's a alright move. I think Fury Warrior still needs a rework, but that's it. That's my intro towards Fury Warrior. Now let's talk about the stats. No big surprise, I like my mastery. Mastery is something I always tend to go for if I'm like playing arms or if I'm playing Fury, so it does help. Also, if you do like playing Protection Warrior, I think Mastery is also the way to go for that, so again, you cannot go wrong with Mastery. Crit, I have still too much for my liking, but once I have like all my items, I think it should be good enough to have full Mastery with a bit of haste and enough versatility. Again, you kind of want to have like 31% in PvP. I still have like a lot more. I think I have like 35 or 36%, or a bit more even. That's not really ideal. You want to have like more into mastery or more into haste. You have some again soft caps here and there, so you have to be careful for that. But still, I do like running full mastery. It does a lot of damage, makes you like hit like a truck. Your rampages, even your raging blows, everything kind of hits very hard. And depending on the class that you're facing, if they're not careful, they might just get cleaved down very quickly. For the items that I go for, I took the time to go in PvE and go for Seal of Filial Duty with the antique bullions. which is easy. You just go into LFR, which I have done like too many LFRs, but I'm going to be honest, I did like my time into those raids. So I did Primal Bulwark, Caverns of Infusion, Fury of the Storm, and once you see the Awakened like icon, you can do that, and you get like some antique bullions, and you can farm like 4 pretty quickly, because it is something you can farm week per week basis, but you can also like catch up very quickly. So I took the time to buy that, and I also bought the Ashkandur Fall of the Brotherhood, but I'm going to upgrade it in Mythic Plus. Hopefully I do get a group for that, and then I'm going to equip it, which is still nice. It has a lot of mastery, a bit of crit, and it's also a cool looking weapon. But overall, you don't need to do PvE. So if you don't want to go into PvE because you are allergic, which I can understand, you can just buy the Verse Mastery ring, and then you can have like a crafted ring, which can help, like for example, the Signet or the Ring Bound, and you can do like even Mastery Haste if you want to, which I think I might do that to overcompensate, at least compensate the too much versatility that I have running right now. So that is something you can go for. Overall embellishments, I have like a few ones that I really like, and then a few ones that I don't really care too much, but I do equip it. I have it not on me right now, but what you can go for is pretty much like the blue linen silken, if you want to, if you're like never targeted, which is not always the case, but it gives you a lot of mastery. You can even take 2 times that. You could also go for Verdant Conduit, which is also a good one. You have many ones, but to be honest, as a melee, it doesn't really matter too much for what you're going for. But I do get my Battle Ready Binoculars, which is not a embellishment, but it's an item with a lot of mastery, like only 1 main stat, which is perfect. Like again, secondary stat, which is perfect. For example, mastery being a lot higher than usual. And we are running with the 4 set. Now, 4 set is something that I was debating going for or not. I don't find it too useful. Let me explain. Overall, I did a lot of 2s today, and my 4 set never really broke me more than 123k normal hits, bloodthirst, and even critting. It's kind of the same, and I can look like every single match I did today. So this one maybe not, maybe this one. This is a BM hunter, which is annoying. Only did a 146k bloodthirst. I can go even further, so I can show you a bit. Here we have a bloodthirst 150k, which is like again one of the bigger crits I did as a bloodthirst, and we don't have bloodbath, by the way. Big spoiler. I'm going to show you why. But this one, for example, we have a bloodthirst 150k. So overall, I don't really hit or crit that high, and I'm debating if the loss of stats that I get from the 4 set, is it worth it for the increased damage I can have on my bloodthirst. It's interesting because again, it's an increase button you have. You do build it pretty much without thinking because you're rampaging that much. But I feel like often I don't really need it to finish games. It feels like it's extra, and I feel like could I benefit from it a bit more by just getting 2 set, which is a great thing because we have like some great pieces. For example, you can go shoulders and chest, which is like haste versatility and haste mastery, and then you can like let go of hands and legs, so you can get even more mastery, or even like have a combination of haste mastery somewhere, right? And probably the damage that you would get from the mastery would compensate the overall damage burst that you would get from your bloodthirst. So I'm debating. Right now I don't have a lot of choices because I do play also arms, and I do plan to play a bit of prot here and there to see and feel, is it going to be competitive in like solo queue RPG, which I don't think so, but still. And I kind of need it, I would say, to talk about it. But once I have like enough conquest to buy like a full gear set again, I would easily just change those two pieces to then see for myself how it goes. So be wary if you're like a Fury Warrior and you don't really like the tracking you have to have for Bloodthirst. You could easily just change those two pieces and put something like very basic, like a first mastery piece, or even a mastery of a haste piece, or even a haste first piece. I don't really care about that, but I think you could win a bit more by going for that than the occasional burst you could have on Bloodthirst. Because I want to remember, you guys, like it's only 2% of my damage. And I only press it for either my survivability with enraged regeneration, or I press it because of the rampage stacks I get. And most games, again, I'm like doing that many rampages, that many raging blows. Overall, I do feel like I don't really need the extra damage that I can have on that, and I feel like it's very random as well. But so those are the stats. I think like enchantments, you all know the drill. Nothing is new, so just take like Sophic Devotions on both weapons. Take like strength, stamina. Take sustained strength. I go like mastery gems, but to be honest, you could go mastery haste or even haste gems, and that's it. Now let's talk about the builds. And this is the build that I'm running right now. I think you can see everything. Yes, you can see. And it's finally a build without Odin's Fury. And you would say that it is not really a good thing because Odin's Fury is a feels good press. But the issue is with Odin's Fury is if you want to be effective with Odin's Fury, you need way more points. Like for example, you need Bloodborne. You will need Depth Experience probably because you're going to go for Bloodthirst. But even then, you also can go for Odin's Fury, and you have to have the upgrade as well. And overall, you also will have to change to Titan's Torment to get a activation of Odin's Fury from your avatar, and vice versa. But overall, this build is the one that I have the most success with in twos. And also, I would say in Soul Shuffle, it has success. But like I said, in Soul Shuffle, it really depends on who you're facing, depends on the healers you're facing. And I'm going to be honest, it's not fun to play as a Fury Warrior in Soul Shuffle because of the dampening. Your healing is already very bad, your sustain is very bad, your overall survivability is already very bad, but on top of that you have dampening, which affects every single like defensive press you can have. Like Bloodthirst healing is down, your impending victory is also down, your enraged regeneration is down, everything is down. Like even your talents are going to be less effective. So I personally don't like Soul Shuffle as a Fury, but I think overall it is not really a meta for Fury to thrive in Soul Shuffle. But in comps like threes, you can find yourself a good partner, like for example Retribution Paladin, and you can even get a Fistweaver Monk. Then you can just go ham, pretty much, or you play like more of a subtle like comp where you can play like with a caster. For example, you can play with a lock, like affliction warlock. Fury Warrior is very underestimated, but it's very strong. It kind of resembles to Havoc Demon Hunter. And nothing what you can do will break the dots as well. So it's a good thing. Like for example, Frost Mage Affliction Warlock is not that bad, but you cannot really sheep anything else. You're going to lose the dots you're putting. But here you can basically fear, you can Stormbolt, you can do anything you want, and you can protect your Warlock very easily with an Intervene as well. So I'd really like that as well. You can also play with a Shadow Priest, kind of the same deal, but Shadow Priest has way more instant CC, that is way more available as well. I really like playing with casters. Fortunately, I think casters do like to play with melee as well. But with the meta currently, people play double caster because it's way easier to play though. I think melee caster is one of the better comps where you can play and win versus anyone. So that is also a suggestion. Now for the build, let's talk about the build a bit more in depth. So I have changed a few things. For example, I don't take anything that has with shockwave to do. Why? Because it is like 3 points to get to shockwave. So you have barbaric training or seismic reverberation. And then you get endurance training, and then you get shockwave, which is again not necessarily needed because you have Stormbolt. Yes, you can like cover your stuns on every target because of that, but often in Soul Shuffle or in twos, you have a partner that has its stun, or it seems like too much to get like something like that. You can use it as a micro CC, but personally, I don't really need it, and especially since I do like playing with Overwhelming Rage and Frothing Berserker. And what makes it very good is that you can actually chain rampages after rampages, and that's actually a great thing because often you get like too much rage from your attacks, like for example onslaught or your raging blows or your executes, which then you have like rage lost. That's not really ideal because everything resources that is lost is never going to be recuperated. You can see it in RTS games, for example. You don't want to spend not enough compared to what you have gained, because then it's just loss of resources. The same for this game, and the same for League of Legends as well, and the same for leveling as well. You want to spend your mana and your health efficiently if you want to level quickly on Classic, for example. But the same for Overwhelming Rage. Those 30 rages would never be taken in previous seasons, but now with how much rage you regen because of Onslaught, because of Ravager, because of Execute, because of your presses that you have constantly, you can basically do double rampages on many occasions. And double rampage does a lot of damage, but also quickly puts Slaughterhouse on the target, which is one of the best mortal wounds in the game. Gets you 36% MS effect, which is a bit less interesting than sharpen blade from sharpen from arms warriors, but better overall than a MS from a warrior, except during sharpen. So I really like that. Also, it does a lot of damage. Rampage has been buffed multiple times, and we do play without Annihilator. So now every time you're going to have like 5 stacks of slaughtering strikes, it does crazy amount of damage, and sometimes people are like falling over without you knowing. So I really like that. Concussive blows is something you can change whenever you want and put it somewhere else, depending on who you're facing. The same for multiple things. For example, you can change your Berserker Rage if you're facing no one that has like a sap, a fear, or incap, and you don't really care about Bursting Hall. You can also change those two, and you can put those points elsewhere. You can put it in Second Wind if you're playing in BGs, for example. You can put in Honed Reflexes for those Raging Blows cooldown, or Pummel cooldown, for example. You can also put in Wrecking Throw. You have multiple points you can spend to have effective talent choices. Now, you're going to see that we have changed a point that normally would be taken by Titan's Torment, and now we take Berserker's Torment. With the addition of anger management, makes us to have an avatar pretty much every 45 seconds. And that's a good thing to have, because again, since you are doing a lot of damage like constantly and you're spending rage, you get a lot of anger management usefulness towards Rampage, which is your main damage ability. And again, having more avatars, more recklessness, more ravages as well, gives you a lot of damage possibilities with Rampage, which at the end is just unhealable if you're like very, very close to the target and you're not peeled away. This is pretty much GG's moment, kind of. And we were playing still with Thunderous Roar. I wish I could play with Curl Strikes, because I'm going to be honest, Thunderous Roar has no real usefulness towards our build. I could be playing with Spear of Passion, like Champion Spear, excuse me, but the issue is if it was a 1 minute CD, I would be playing that. But it's a 1.5 minute CD, which doesn't really line up with anything except with my avatar. And often what happens with avatar is they have their Astra Shift up, or they have like another PS up, or they have like something up that is constantly very annoying. So your Champion Spear would either be used while you have no avatar, so your effectiveness is a lot lower, or you're going to have to use while avatar, so you are actually spending those resources to get also CDs from them. So I like the concept. I like the available rage you get from it. I like the damage it can have. I want to make it work. I will try to make it work. But right now I didn't find any build that is making Champion Spear work. Now, again, you can play that if you want to in RPGs or in solo queue RPGs, or even in twos. But again, it's a huge bait ability. People are using their defensives anyways. Most characters can actually just run away from the champion spear very easily. Like DK can just do a defense advance. Priest can just fade. You have cloak. You have what else? You have ice block, for example, for mages. You have multiple things that can make people just run away from champion spear or just use a defensive 1-for-1, which is not always a good thing for you. So while Thunderous Roar, some people are not noticing it, and you're going to have a lot of damage from it, while Spear of Bastion, the availability of it is a huge factor to them using a CD on it. So yeah, it's tough. Now let's talk about the Fury talents. It's very basic. There are a few changes you can do. Personally, this is the build that I'm playing right now 90% of the time. I do change maybe this and maybe this sometimes if I do duels, but I do like improved whirlwind. But you can put on massacre if you want to. Execute does a lot of damage, so for me it's very high on the prior list. If you are not rampaging, I think execute or onslaught is one of the higher on the list, and then raging blows if you want to stack those slaughtering strikes, for example. But I'm going to talk about it on the rotation side of things. You could also put that point into Warpaint, which is 5% in PvP. It's not that big, but it's still there. You could also use your Foresight pretty effectively with Vicious Contempt. But I do feel like whenever they're 35% HP, doesn't really matter if you have Bloodthirst or not, or can you just do a rampage execute and it's over. So again, it's very difficult to know, look, is it going to be good or not? If it was 50% HP, it would be maybe a bit more played, but even then, I think it's just not that good value. Cold Steel and Hot Blood is not that good if you're not taking Bloodborne, in my opinion. But what I do play most is Meat Cleaver, and it just makes your Whirlwind being able to then cleave your 4 next single target melee attacks instead of 2 onto the enemies next to you, and it does a lot of damage. Like in melee cleaves or in melee situations, having that is like a big factor of you winning the game or not, because you're going to apply multiple solar houses on everyone. You're going to have a lot of damage, like overall, like cleaving, and it is really a lot of damage. And again, I think it's free damage. Also, you can really make people scared, and they will use a CD because of that, which then is an easy swap for you. I personally like that. You could also change those 2 points. You put like those 2 points into Vicious Contempt. You can put also one into Warpaint and one into Blood Craze if you really want to, although I don't really use Bloodthirst too much. You can also put that point into Massacre, which is a good talent, but yeah, I really like the cleave potential. On the soft side of things, we are playing with anger management now. Reckless Abandon has been nerfed after nerfed after nerfed. It has not been buffed since, I think, beginning of Shadowlands, and this is too bad now. I think raging, like Crushing Blow or Bloodbath, is not enough of an investment to get it. And I do feel like since we're playing with Ravager, which is a insane talent now, with especially Storm of Destruction, which is slowing people, but also having a 1-minute CD on Ravager plus anger management makes you easily a menace every single time. You will get a Recklessness and a Ravager together most of the time, but often you can just have like your Ravager at the same time as your Avatar, and will come back around 30 seconds, and then you have a go with your Ravager, and then you have Recklessness coming back again, so you have a go with Recklessness and Avatar proccing from it, and then you can go back with an Avatar go once you have Avatar back. So you have multiple ways to play this game, and I feel like right now Rampage is the main damage dealer ability. So what you want to do to improve that is having more avatars and more recklessness and more ravagers, because you also play with Hurricane, which is giving you also strength. So overall will make you hit like a truck on most occasions, and I really like that. We're also playing with Onslaught, obviously a very good ability, does a lot of damage. I critted for 200k like all the time. Like it's such a easy ability to press, and critting that is very satisfying and helps you to build up on that rampage, helps you to do a double rampage as well, so if you're like full rage, and all the combination with this also improving your rampage. There is no reason to not play Onslaught right now. And also you have Ravager, again, like I said, a very good ability. And overall, I really like this build. PvP talents, really quickly. Slaughterhouse is a talent that I'm picking every single time, except if I feel like I've been playing with a windwalker that knows how to target people. I will never get a Slaughterhouse out. If I'm playing with a hunter that has a mortal wound pet and doesn't want to change it, then I just take it out as well, because it will be useless, because I will not be able to stack it. And I would say also Arms Warrior, DH, all those specs are very annoying to play with. But overall, if I'm not playing with a mortal wound effect, like more strike effect class, I do take Slaughterhouse. And if I do play with one, I take it out. I do play with Battlefield Commander. I think it's a huge value PvP talent. Gives you stamina, gives you a root, gives you a range on your shout if you're playing with the shout. You play with Intimidating Shout, which is a fear as well, very quick fear as well, for a warrior. Rallying Cry, which is giving you a root removal and also speed, which is also great. And Thunderous Roar, which is giving you more damage, which is also nice. But yeah, you could also take that away and go for Disarm, or you can go for Blood Rage if you feel like you're getting rooted too much. It's a 20-second CD, so it's not that much value, but still it's there. Barbarian is also cool if you can use it, if you feel like you can use it. But again, Death Wish, very nice in solo RPGs, for example. You can crit like insane with that, but it's very high risk. I would not play that in twos because you're going to get murdered. Moorbringer is useless. Rebound is okay versus double casters if you feel like you can always get it off. It can be very good value, especially if you see like a glacial spike going on to you. It can be interesting. Safeguard is also a good one if you're playing like with a Shadow Priest or Warlock. You can pretty much like make them immortal, which is a good thing. And then you have Enduring Rage, which is okay, I guess, but since we're playing with anger management, we are not really in need of a recklessness. Battle Trance is not that good. Right now it's not really that good, especially with dampening. Death Sentence is a meme because it's a bit bugged. Doesn't take you the whole way, so I don't like it. Since they nerfed it, it's really a bad talent. That has been nerfed in Shadowlands, if I'm not mistaken. Did I forget anything? Demolition is really nice if you play with Wrecking Throw and you're playing versus a Mistweaver. You can just take out the Life Cocoon from the get-go, which is a good thing. But also Warlocks versus Warlocks is also very strong. And that's it. And then we have the best talent for last. It's Storm of Destruction, which I play every single time if I'm playing with Ravager or Blightstorm as an Arms Warrior. Like the double play Storm. But this is really good. Like the Snare versus a Druid, he cannot really shapeshift. So he can shapeshift, but it's not going to save them. It's going to be hits it anyways. And also the 1 minute CD is really big, especially since you have Hurricane and it does give you strength and a movement speed. So that is the build. I really like this build, and I have fun with it. And I must say, it has been a while I didn't have fun with a Fury Warrior. So I'm going to show you a bit the damage in PvP. So you see, this one is a 2s game, and I have a rampage of a 126k crit on a hit. So you have 5 hits on rampage, or 4 hits, excuse me. So you have 4 hits, and it hits, like, crits 1 time for 126k. So imagine if it crits also like the other strikes, although it's not really equal to the 1 strike. It still does a lot of damage. Like in total, you can do easily like 200k with just 1 rampage, and it can go higher if you have like full crits. Raging Blow hits 2 times, and it does a lot of damage as well. Ravager also hits and crits for a lot of damage. Do not underestimate it. Try to keep the players into the Ravager so you have a lot of value but also a lot of damage. It does 12% of my damage, by the way, which is insane in twos. Execute does a lot of damage as well. You see the crit, it did crit for 184k and it hits 2 times, so you do 184k, and then imagine if it's another crit, so you can really ruin someone. It does a lot more damage than Arms Warrior Execute, which is pretty nuts if you ask me, but it's there. Onslaught, like I said, it does crit for a lot, but also hits for a lot. And then you have your melee strikes, which is again laughable in retail, but it's still there. Thunderous Roar did some okay damage. You have the bleed portion and also the hit portion. But I'm going to say that if I could play with Spear of Bastion and not being a meme, it would be better in my opinion. Yeah, and that's it. So the damage has been seen, but you could also see multiple games of that and have a lot of value as well. This game is versus a Arms Warrior. I did play Arms, excuse me. This game I did play Arms because I wanted to test Arms as well. But overall, your damage is always going to be very high, depending on who you're facing. Obviously, in twos, you're not king as Fury Warrior, but you're close to it, so it's a good thing. So let's talk really quickly about comps, because I feel like I'm going to forget about it. In twos, you are a very good spec. I might make a tier list very soon about twos, because I do play a lot of twos these days. I really like the bracket. You're a good spec, you have good comps. You do feel like a bit helpless sometimes because of how dampening works and how defensives work, but I think that's how Fury works anyways, unfortunately. But I think Fury as a whole is well placed, so if you want to have fun as a Fury Warrior, keep in mind your matchups. I think Hunters are very annoying to play against and around. Also, Holy Priest, like together, is very annoying, but you kind of have to hit the healer most of the time, or else you're going to have a bad time. Try to cleave those two together. If you feel like you cannot go for the healer, swap. But again, you're playing an arms race in twos, and often if you're going for the DPS and the DPS is going for you and you're next to the healer, it's not going to be that good for you. So personally, I prefer to go for the healer. It sucks, but I think Fury Warrior kind of needs that, and it does it well as well. So play around that. Obviously, not all healers are going to stick next to you, but I think at 2k MMR we did very well. Those games were at 2k MMR. I'm still climbing. Yeah, and we are like not fully geared. Like my healer friend has like full green, so and it's a green shaman, so it means like mastery wise it is nowhere near the threshold he needs to be. So it's a good thing. It's looking good for Fury Warriors. I would pair myself with a healer, preferably a mistweaver or a resto shaman, maybe a holy priest. Why not a disc priest? I think the disc priest will be focusing on healing you instead of doing damage, which is not that good. A preservation evoker is also very good because your damage is going to be very high, and the preservation evoker can also finish off the targets, so the games are going to be very nervous as well. Holy paladins, I think it's very matchup dependent, and with the amount of hunters you see, with the amount of demon hunters you're going to see, I feel like you're not going to have a great time. That's my opinion. Do I miss someone? I think I talked about like resto druid. I don't really like it as well because I think you're not really playing to the strength of a resto druid. I think resto druid kind of needs to be able to be played aggressively so you can have the full kit available to you. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of resto druids into with a warrior, at least. Any warriors. Is Fury Warrior better than Arms Warrior? In my opinion, it is in twos. I think Fury Warrior is better than Arms. I think Arms is a bit tough because your damage is good, but also like a bit tricky. I think if you're kited as Arms, it's way worse than if you're kited as a Fury Warrior, and that is really annoying if you are seeing a lot of hunters. That is going to happen. So threes, ideally play with a caster. That's my opinion. I do like to play with a caster that has a lot of CC that you can peel and protect. So I would be playing with a affliction warlock or with a destruction warlock or demonology warlock. I would be playing with a shadow priest or with an elemental shaman. I would be playing with maybe a like devastation evoker. Why not? Could be also very interesting. Elemental shaman, obviously. Balance druid, you can also not go wrong. Balance druid is very strong. If you can have like a balance druid in your team, you can often win games from the opener. But yeah, you have tools and you have friends and you have comps that you can play in threes. You can also go for a good old turbo cleave with a enhancement shaman, or you can play with a retribution paladin and a mistweaver, which is very zug, but I do feel like some matchups are going to be very tough for you. But those are the comps I would go for. I will be pushing very soon in threes. But right now I'm kind of waiting for if I have someone that wants to play with me. But I guess I will have to LFG my way to the top, which is fine. Soul Shuffle, yeah, no bueno. I don't like it. I think Soul Shuffle as a warrior is not that good, but as a Fury warrior is even worse. I think Arms warrior I have more fun because I have double Blaze Storm. Here it does feel like you're getting CC'd or rooted every single time, and if you're the target, you have to play like a bee, you know. So for now, I don't really touch too much Soul Shuffle except if I have time or except if it pops, but I'm not really focusing too much about it. And solo RPGs, you can have a lot of fun. You can go Death Wish or you can not go for Death Wish. I think it's a good environment for a warrior to shine because again, a target caller or like a front spec that is going to go in is like a front line is very good for your comps in general. Trust me, like playing a full ranged comp is not really fun, or playing a full melee comp is also not that fun. But I prefer to play a full melee comp than a full range comp, for example. So again, Fury Warrior has a great place and can do very well. From what I've seen right now, from what I've tested and played, and that's it. And duels, you can do fine. I think you have tools to do like very good duels. And World PvP, I think you can also do fine. Just try to find a healer and you can just wreck people. Now let's talk about rotation really quickly. It's not really complicated. It's not like rocket science, let's be honest. It's Fury Warrior, but it's way more intense and way more fun. I think the sound is a bit too high, so I'm going to drop it. So, Fury Warrior. What you want to do is very simple. You can have some macros. You can do a macro with Avatar and Recklessness together. You can even put Avatar, Recklessness, and Ravager together if you want to. I do separate those two because often they're using a defensive, so you can hold on your Ravager. You can also like bait them with a Recklessness and Ravager, and they will pop something, and then you're going to do an Avatar afterwards. So you have ways to play around. But overall, what you want to do is charge in, try to get your first rampage up, and once you have your first rampage, then it goes into overdrive. You're going to do a lot of damage as well. So let's start right away with the basics of your burst. So I'm going to show you the current segment as well. I'm gonna hit it so it resets. I think it's going to reset anyways, but let's do it still. So 4 set, you cannot want to bloodthirst only from 5 stacks or more. Personally, I do like around 8 or 9 or 10 stacks because I don't like to bloodthirst at all. So let's try to have a lot of damage. So I'm going to charge in. I'm not going to execute right away because often you're not going to execute that right away. Now I have a proc of sudden death, for example, and then I'm going to avatar into a Ravager, for example. You can do a lot of damage as well. So then you have your onslaught. You can do a rampage again, execute, rampage, raging blow, rampage, execute. And since you have a lot of rage pool, you don't really need to rampage directly, or you can just rampage 2 times in a row if you get like a frothing berserker stack. Now you have Ravager again because of your anger management. So you see you have like recklessness really soon. 60 seconds on your avatar, and you have your second recklessness, which is again 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and you get a rampage, and you can also have like every excuse me, every 17-18 seconds your Ravager if you're like not misplaying, but you can do a lot of damage. And overall, it is very nervous. You will be pressing a lot of buttons, and once you have onslaught, you need to press it directly, so you have a lot of damage as well. So you can have weak auras for that if you want to. You can also move your UI to help you alleviate for that. I personally don't need to, but once you have your avatar into recklessness into your Ravager, it does a lot of damage. This is like insane. It's single target, 160k damage. And the damage is not lowered as much as, let's say, our Arms Warrior on a dummy, because we don't really have a lot of negative modifiers. We have actually a lot of positive modifiers, so that's a good thing. And then you have your second go, you have your Ravager, and then you see your avatar up, and then you can do another go, and pretty much this is like unhealable. If they have no defensives, they're pretty much dead. So try to also use Recklessness in your Ravager on CD, because you can lower it anyways, so you have a lot of impact and a lot of uptime on your Ravager. You see Recklessness avatar is still up, so this is a lot of damage. I have, like, again, unlucky Frothing Berserker, unfortunately, because I didn't really do 2 rampages in a row, but you can do a lot of damage overall with those 2 abilities. So you see 160k still, and we didn't really use my butters. Let's do it one time, I guess, because for the shitting giggles. It does like 260k without an avatar. It's fine. I personally don't really like it, so I don't really use it too much. I might change it, like I said, in the future once I have like enough points for conquest points, so I can use it on other pieces. But you see, Rampage does a lot of damage, and I do feel like I hit or crit way harder in real games than on dummies, but even then it does also a lot of damage. Execute does also a lot of damage, and I feel like I do more damage in real than in dummies, so it's very good as well. Raging Blow does same-ish damage, your Ravager as well. And then you have your Thunderous Roar, which is doing less damage on a dummy, less damage on a real person than on a dummy, and also does some good damage as well on a dummy and also on a player. So it's a bit treacherous how it is on a dummy, but keep in mind, like I said, I made you see a few of those games, the damage of Rampage. It can exceed to 120k if everything is lining up. I think overall it does feel very good to play. Hopefully you did like see everything I was doing. There was trophy GCD up on my head, so if I'm pressing something, you do see it like above what I'm doing. So even if it's not really clear what I'm saying, at least you can see what I'm doing. I have a few things that you can do to help you with Ravager. There is a add player Ravager, which is very easy. You don't need to snipe someone because you're not going to kill someone because of that. I do it once I have charged, for example, or doing a Stormbolt. I do just press Ravager and I'm fine. You can also have like a cancel aura, but you don't really need it right now, but in War Within you might need it. You can also make a focus macro if you want to. I have like a Rallying Cry, Bitter Immunity, Last Stand macro. I don't really use it. I do use my burst cooldown, which is my avatar, for my trinket and for my avatar with recklessness. But you could also have like a recklessness with a Ravager macro together. You can put it here, and then you can have a mini burst. Someone is going to use a CD, and then you have your big burst, which is avatar, and then you're going to be able to win the game, for example. You can also have like a emblem with enraged regeneration if you want to. I have party 1, party 2 intervene. If I'm playing with Spear of Bastion, I can have also add player Spear of Bastion, so I don't miss it. I still might miss it anyways, but still. And that's it. Those are my macros. A few tips. Again, try to not chase your enemy to the end of the world. I know it's tempting, but you might die because of that. Try to not like be scared of using your CDs. Like I said, you have your you have anger management, so it is actually your task to use Ravager and Recklessness on CD.
even if it's a wasted recklessness or wasted ravager, it comes back like after 18 seconds, after 20 seconds, depending on your uptime with your character, and every 30 seconds you get your recklessness, which is a good thing because it means every 30 seconds you get a mini avatar. Like if I'm pressing recklessness, I get a 7 seconds avatar, which is not too shabby in my opinion. So this is the build, the guide I wanted to make. If you have any questions, be sure to comment below. I'll try to help you. Overall, I think it's a good time to play Fury. I enjoyed this build way more than previous season, with the like annihilator, or if even with reckless abandon. I really didn't like how it felt, and this feels very good. It feels a bit PvE though because of anger management and how it works, but it works. Like I think rampage hits like a truck. It is interesting how it plays, and it's interesting how it's functioning together, and I really like it, especially with the increased rage bar that I get because of like overwhelming rage. And it does feel good to rampage and sometimes do a double rampage back to backs. It does a lot of damage as well. So even if you're not like stacking your slaughtering strikes, you can just rampage and it does some good damage as well. Again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and we will catch you all probably very soon in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.